you a parent who's recently had your child back at school? And with the outbreak of the third wave, having reports from school about children testing positive in your child's class, and you becoming stressed, anxious, maybe there are people at work and other classes and other schools having to kind of go to homeschool, online learning, and chopping and changing, and feeling really stressed. So I thought I'd chat to you about what is the real dangers and what is the evidence about the Delta variant and your child's chance of picking up the virus and spreading it at school, or your child picking it up from somebody else. So there's a lot of emotive language and a lot of information, and just talking to some of the parents over the last day or so. Parents are panicking and worrying and saying, why don't we just shut all the schools down? It's absolutely ludicrous that the schools are still open. And, when there is panic, I have parents immediately when they hear somebody's positive or their child's positive, can I take ivermectin? Can I do this? Can I do that? Ivermectin is for horses and animals. It has been shown that it's not a safe option, particularly in children. So please don't give your child ivermectin. Talk to your doctor about the real facts. So let's be cool, calm, and rational about this. So I had a look at the evidence and looked at some really good studies recently, looking at the American experience and also elsewhere in the UK where they've got the Delta variant, of children going back to school and the chances of them spreading it. So the bottom line is, it's not really the big factor. With the measures in place, particularly in the schools that in my area, introducing, sanitation. I mean, schools are masters now at sanitation. They are absolutely amazing at being able to separate children, organize, good discipline, structure. Really, the overwhelming number of cases is direct family contact, play dates, family gatherings, all those social events at the weekends. That's outside of the school. So I had a look at some kind of studies, and there were some large studies from actually the CDC. That's the World Authority, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And they conducted a major big study and found that there wasn't really any good evidence that going back to school and children spreading it amongst each other in the school grounds was the source of the spread of the Delta variant and your child or a child picking up COVID. It's actually in reality from social events and family members. That is the reality. And then there was another big study that was conducted and looked specifically just recently in the last month in a large study in the United States in Alabama and Georgia, which looked at, the spread of the Delta variant and how safe is it for children to be back at school during a pandemic. And surprisingly, schools have not been a major cause of COVID spreading events, particularly when the numbers of preventions and the measures that have taken place in schools. So a combination of precautions, masks indoors, keeping students at least a meter apart in classrooms, and keeping them in pods, sectioning classes off so that they don't come into contact with other classes, and cross-spreading. So, in fact, I found that children are actually at reduced risk of all viruses. Having a look at the private laboratory respiratory infection data that I received recently, there's a huge decline in infections. So I think we've got to be honest with ourselves and take responsibility as parents and society and be honest about where these infections are coming from. It's not standing in a line in a supermarket. It's what we do. We have been quite lax about coming into contact socially. I think it's just pandemic fatigue. Parents, families are gathering together, and that is where the infections are. So it's not the schools that are the source of the infections. And so I think, we've got to just make sure that, over the next couple of weeks and months, particularly in KZN, that we are careful and make sure that we go back to those basics that we learnt about in that first wave, making sure that we are honest ourselves from a social point of view. I mean, I hear so many young people, they're going away at the weekends, they're socializing, they involving themselves. I mean, I understand, after this length of period, humans are social beings. We want to be together. So I think for the next month, be very careful, because that's the source of your infection, not necessarily in the schools.